Paul, I'd love to learn a little bit more about Whitespace and hear from your perspective how ChatGPT and all things AI have actually enhanced or hindered your progress. So please.
Okay, so we, excuse me, just to give you kind of the origins of Whitespace. So myself and my co-founder, who was ex-tech entrepreneur, British, built businesses in the US, but he'd co-founded Microsoft Ventures, and myself and him came together to set up Whitespace. And the idea behind Whitespace was around, rather than going to customers trying to sell them software or sell them services, it was go to them and say, well, what's your problem? We can maybe help your problem. And as tech entrepreneurs and engineers, our kind of feeling was that technology is amazing. We can apply technology to solve your problems, but we need to know what your problems are. So that was the kind of origin of Whitespace. And about 5 years ago, we got asked by a four-star general in the UK. He came to us and said, look, I've got a $100 billion problem. So being an ex-accountant, my ears obviously picked up. And he says, and it's an Excel problem. He says, I'm going to spend $100 billion over the next 10 years. And the decisions I'm making about what things to procure, I'm doing it on the back of a spreadsheet. He says, that can't be right. So this was for strategic command, so one of the frontline commands in the UK MOD. So we built out a decision intelligence platform using AI within the UK MOD to help them optimize their portfolio, help them make decisions between satellite systems to cyber systems to sniper rifles, et cetera, et cetera. So a really complicated command. And because we delivered sort of on time, on spec, and on budget, which was probably the same in the DoD, is kind of unusual. We suddenly got a reputation for being a team that actually got stuff done. So back in 2022, we got asked by a very specialist unit within defense to help them with what they called a kind of a data problem. And we built out a capability in 6 weeks very rapidly to help them solve that problem. It was very, very successful, and we deployed it. It was actually a generative AI capability, which we deployed into the UK MOD pre-ChatGPT. But right then, as a company of engineers, we could see how much this technology had come on and how much it could be applied to a whole range of problems. So we started to build out AI capabilities, generative AI capabilities back in 2022. No one really knew what we were doing, and then obviously ChatGPT came out, and suddenly people wanted to ask me about my job at dinner parties, which was like people who were bricklayers going, "Is my job at risk?" I'm like, no, you're all right. But it was, that was a big sort of transformation. And then we've been at the cutting edge of AI ever since. And we're still, kind of ahead of where, OpenAI is, because we're always pushing the boundaries of what you can do with the technology. So our tech's going on to, aircraft carriers, submarines. Obviously, you don't have internet connection, so we can run it locally. We can run it on an iPhone. So if you've got Apple Intelligence and you're up a mountain, and you have no internet, Apple Intelligence won't work, but ours will. So on the way over on the plane, I was still using my device, helping me code when everyone else didn't have access. So we've come from this environment where we've got to be able to deploy our technology into any environment, wherever the operator is. So ChatGPT or those kind of large language model capabilities, they're certainly hugely impressive. The challenge is actually working them and using them properly in an operational situation. There's a lot of things you need to do, but we've been very much pushing the boundaries of that last sort of 2 to 3 years, last 3 years.
Well, congratulations on that wonderful trajectory. And so I want to stay on the trajectory piece of things. How were you able to then pivot from that work in the UK into the US Navy, I think you said? And then also too, how does AUKUS Pillar 2, and are you people familiar with AUKUS, the agreement between our nation states? For those that aren't, a couple of years ago, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia agreed to actually work to build out the nuclear submarine capability, specifically as it relates to the Australians. And so there's going to be a number of submarines produced here and in Australia that's going to actually happen over these next 20 years, right? Pillar 2 is basically everything else technologically. And so that would cover, I think, your area, both of your areas actually. So how is that helping you move forward from there?
It definitely helps. Anything 5 eyes, 10 eyes, anything around collaboration, even though obviously the events over the last week have kind of changed things slightly in terms of there's a lot more questions in the UK. To be totally frank, can we rely on American partners? That is absolutely a question at the highest level. We know that from the conversations we're in. So there are, if you're an American company at the moment in Europe, you will be asked, can we rely on you? It's I think that will just be a small blip, but it's definitely, as an American CEO of a defense company right now, we will be being asked a lot of difficult questions. But I think besides that, I think the relationships between the UK and US across Five Eyes and all the other relationships, it is so powerful and so strong, and it gives I think there's a lot of understanding as well that not everything great is invented in one country. And I think when DeepSeek came out and you saw what a small motivated team with not very much money, used to working under huge constraints like no GPUs and so on and so on, they can have outsized advantage. And I think in the US, the DoD actually understands the power of SMEs probably more than the MOD in the UK. I think the MOD is now coming to it thinking actually small teams can actually have huge impact. And I think the relationships should get a lot deeper. We're pushing into the US a lot harder, and across the rest of the NATO allies. We're in Brussels next week with NATO with one of our capabilities. But I think it's really important that we build those deep collaborations, even more so than ever, because small teams can have huge impact wherever they're from.
Spot on, completely agree, and we'll touch on that a little bit later.